It isn't that winners don't have self-doubt and don't have negative thoughts. We do. The difference is that we don't let them linger.
Yeah.
Most people, here's what they do. They replay their past failures and setbacks.
Yeah.
It's like a habit, right?
It's like an anti-highlight reel.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And winners, okay, we learn from it, like we talked about. We win some, we learn some, but at the same time, we pre-play our future success and wins, right? The people watching the podcast and listening to the podcast want to learn.
And the actions, the things that I did was just a model and a duplication of the people that I was following.
And saying to myself, hey, you're still JCMF Rangel.
Yeah.
One of the things you said in one of your videos, which is very true, which is we are the happiest when we are creating, when we are accomplishing, when we are conquering. And so everything is created twice, right? Like, you know, you're now sponsored by
Conor McGregor's company.
I mean, that's pretty damn awesome. How did that come to be? Because here's the thing. Before you answer that, you know, to the point that I was making right now is we create the person that we want to be, the business or whatever the case may be. It's first created in the mind, then in the physical. What you did is you went out there and you talked to the right people. You self-reflected, right? You did the personal growth that you needed to do and analyze the situation. And you didn't stay there sobbing. I'm sure there was some time that you were probably sad, but you kept moving forward. Fair enough. That's fine, right? But you didn't stay there doing that. You kept moving forward.
I sobbed to grieve, you know, to like move forward.
Sure.
So many people, they don't even sob. They just keep it in.
Yeah.
But it's like everything needs to be intentional. It needs to be with the intention to move forward, to let go. Yeah,
absolutely. And so, and in and of itself, I teach my son, crying is okay, son. You got to let it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it also gets to the point where, okay, we had our time to grieve. Now, let's keep moving forward, right?
Yeah.
And that is one of the truest things that I've heard is that we are the happiest when we are creating. Even if you buy like a piece of furniture at IKEA and you're putting it together, you start from nothing in the instructions and then you put it together and you got the sense of accomplishment, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I've seen that you've done that, right, in the last couple of years. And how did it come about that you're now sponsored by, what is it, August McGregor?
McGregor, yeah, it's Conor McGregor's company.
Nice.
I'm a huge fan of Conor McGregor.
Me too.
Even before everybody, you know, jumped on the bandwagon. Only because, like, I love this story. I love what he was able to create. And I love how he uses the law of attraction and manifesting. You know, he says, you know, anybody can think positive when times are good. But, you know, when you're in that car and you're broke and you have nowhere to live, like, how are you going to do it?
Yeah.
So, you know, it was actually through my fiance. She bought me like a jumpsuit for I forgot what it was. I think it was for Christmas or something like that. She gifted it to me. And I wore it. I took a photo, posted something. And then, you know, Conor McGregor reposted it. And then his people reached out to me. And then so we've been having a good relationship. And now I'm on their payroll. They send me, you know, cool stuff. And I rock their merch. And
nice.
That's been pretty cool.
That's pretty damn cool. I saw the Instagram page. And then you got your pictures all in one row. Then somebody else. And then Conor McGregor.
Yeah, right, it's a trip. It's a trip for sure.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Conor McGregor too. And same thing. Stories like that inspire me, right? He went from where he was at. And he believed the entire way through, man. And again, it goes back to I'm sure that Conor McGregor had some times of doubt, of course.
Yeah.
But again, you don't let it linger, and you focus, and you can. Hey, all we could do is all we could do, and there's certain things that we can control, and let's go out there and do it. And you know, to me, about 2 years ago, I went from being very, very well off financially to losing it all. Right? I've made $1 million, became a millionaire, lost it twice. That's happened to me twice. And I remember about 2 years ago, it was one of the lowest points when it comes to money. Happiness I had, you know, and I still do. My wife, my son. But I remember having to look in the mirror, and it was just a tough go, right? A lot of things went wrong in business. But I remember looking at myself in the mirror and saying to myself, hey, you're still JCMF Rangel. Just because you don't have the results or the money that you had at one point doesn't mean you could do you can't do it again. It's like riding a bike, right? Getting results, it's like riding a bike. Making money is like riding a bike, right? And so that is an example of when I went through a phase where I did have self-doubt. Like, shit, can I do it again? Then I said, what do you mean if you could do it again? Of course you could do it again. If you did it once, you could do it again. And if you've never done it before, you could do it again, because if other people have done it, right, then you can do it.
Yeah.
There's a book by, what is his name? I forget, but it's called Tough Men. Here's what he talks about. He says, tough times create tough men. Tough men create easy times, good times, and good times create weak men. Yeah. And then weak men create tough times, and it's a cycle, right?
We're in it right now. We're in it right now.
That's exactly what we're in. And right now, we're in a day and age where there is, I'm going to just say it, the beta male has never been more prevalent these days.
Yeah.
Right?
Not just that, but if you're an alpha male, they're going to cancel you.
They're going to cancel you for being an alpha male.
I don't think masculinity is toxic.
Mm-mm. No.
I think the challenge is if you're not masculine, that is toxic.
Yes.
And because, a lot of people think alphas, they hear that, like people that are like cocky or, for lack of a better word, douchebag or whatever it is.
Sure.
But I think an alpha is just somebody that has confidence in themselves, but I would even add to that, but also adds confidence to the people around them and leads. An alpha is a leader.
Right.
And I think that's what we need more today is men that are willing to lead. Because there are men out there that are assholes, that are tough and all that, but their actions come from insecurity. So they're not really an alpha male. Right. Like if you're going out there disrespecting women, doing that, like, are you really an alpha male? No, you're insecure, you know?
It's crazy because, when I was a kid, you did martial arts.
Yep.
When we did martial arts as kids, we still do martial arts. Matter of fact, we got to train together one of these days, bro.
I'm down.
We've been talking about that for years, but
I have a potential fight coming up in August. I'll let you know.
Oh, nice. Let me know, man. Awesome. Yeah. And so when it comes to training, when we were kids, there was first, second, and third place. That's it. There's no such thing as a damn participation trophy. Yeah. We live in a day and age now where there's no alpha males. Being an alpha male is frowned upon.
Yeah.
Kids get participation trophies. Everybody's insulted for anything. As far as I'm concerned, here's the deal. It's black and white, man. Right now, beta males are more prevalent than ever before. They're flaunting their beta, right? And they're proud of it. It's funny. I have I won't mention who it is, but somebody that I know. Okay, he may be a friend, he may be a relative. I won't say what it is, but I remember having conversations with him years ago, and I told him, I said, "Bro, here's a problem. You're a beta male.
Yeah."
You want to have these problems and go from, we were talking about women. I said, you want to go from the friend zone to the end zone. You're never going to do that being this beta male. You got to be an alpha male. Now, an alpha male, as you mentioned, is a respectful person, is a gentleman, right? That doesn't mean that, you mistreat women or anything like that. But we were talking about that, and he learned a lot. He started hanging out with me and a couple of my friends and brothers. And eventually, when you hang out certain people, like if somebody hangs out with you, some shit's going to rub off.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Sure.
Some of this champion stuff
it works both
off.
ways, though. If I hang out with certain people for too long, certain things are going to rub off as well.
So with this guy, he learned, and he tells us later, you know what, man? Some of this advice that you gave me really served me well. I see what I was doing so wrong before. And it kind of reminds me of the movie, what is it called? Crazy Stupid Love. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
It's been a while.
It's a great movie, though.
I have seen it, but yeah.
So the dude tells a guy, he says, that wife of yours is going to rule the day she gave up on you. And I told my buddy, I said, go watch that movie. And if you listen to what I'm telling you, first of all, you got to start working out. I said, you got to start working out. You got to build that self-confidence. You got to stay busy.
Yeah.
You got to stay busy because the idle mind is devil's playground.
Yep.
Anyways, that particular guy, I love that dude. But a lot of the things that are happening nowadays, he mentions a lot of things that before he would never mention. Now he does, and the reason why he does is because it's okay to be a beta male.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's just, it's a crazy world we live in, man.
I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of conspiracy theories and stuff like that, but I think the more beta you are, the more you comply, the less you question.
Right.
And I don't know.
An alpha, and it's not only an alpha male or female. It's alpha can be male or female. So when we say alpha male, we're talking about men and women. When we say alpha, And so, because there's alpha women out there, right? And to your point.
And alpha women, not to be confused with masculine women.
Right.
Which I think, I think naturally all women want to be feminine.
Right.
And, if there's any men out there that complain like, these women are masculine or, all this, it's like, it's your fault. Right. Because they feel like they can't count on you. They can't trust you. You have broken promises or whatever it is. They're not going to give you your crown back because they can't trust you.
That's
they
true.
feel like they got to get the job done themselves. So we have no one to blame but ourselves.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely. And so, but an alpha is, as you mentioned, somebody that thinks for themselves, not somebody that just complies like a sheep. Yeah. Oh, this is what they're saying. For example, here's something that's a little bit controversial, but I don't care. I'm going to say it. there's black and white right there. There's a clear distinction between black and white. But there's an even more clear distinction between men and women.
Yeah.
And nowadays, people are buying into this. Listen, God created man and he created woman, right? Me as an alpha male, I'm like, I don't care what the TV says or what the government says. I don't care what anybody says. I can think for myself, and I know that right there is a woman and that right there is a man.
Yeah.
Now, they want to call themselves whatever they call themselves. Hey, good for you. I don't care if you change your name or what you identify with, but in my mind, in my heart, you are either a man or you're either a woman, right? And I find so many people that I actually consider smart people that are buying into this stuff, and it drives me crazy. I'm like, hey, but you know what? At the end of the day, to each his own. Hey, you believe what you believe. Let me believe what I believe. But here's a problem. Nowadays, people are okay with being told what they can and can't believe, which is ludicrous.
Yeah, I think it's herd mentality, and there's a term in psychology called social proof. When people are in an environment, they don't know what to do. They just do what everybody else does.
Right.
And it's just sad. Like, I've seen. I don't really comment a lot, but I've seen a lot of smart people that all of a sudden they start speaking. I'm just like, how you're so smart. How can you think that?
Right.
This is just my personal belief. I think, men and women are equal, but they're not the same.
Exactly.
And actually, in fact, I'll take it a step further. I don't think men and women are equal. I think any woman that's trying to be equal to a man doesn't understand how powerful she is. In my religion, women are actually on a pedestal. They're actually regarded higher than men. Like, men need to protect and safeguard women because they're so valuable.
That's right.
But, it's just crazy. I think they're at least equal, but not the same.
They're not the same. And so when people try to say that, listen, I'm okay. Is there a double standard? There's a double standard, absolutely, but it goes both ways.
And I can prove that argument too. Like, I know it might sound crazy, right? But not everybody has been blessed to grow up with both parents, right?
Absolutely.
So you can't tell me that men and women are the same, are the same, because you look at in a family where there's a single mother. Obviously, there's a gap because there needs to be a father there.
Right.
She's trying to play both roles, right? Or same thing in a relationship in a family where there's only a single father. There's something missing there. So
Absolutely.
If they're the same, then there shouldn't be any issues or problems there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so obvious, but common sense is not very common, right?
Yeah.
And when you look at it, you realize it. And even before all of this cancel culture and before all of these things happen,
we might get canceled after this.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it's true. We might get canceled after this conversation. But with all this cancel culture and all these things, here's one thing that beyond the shadow of a doubt is the truth, right? There's a full-blown attack right now, not only on society, but on kids. Even before all of this stuff happened, right? One-parent homes. I grew up in a one-parent home. My mother raised us. Thankfully for me, martial arts gave me that father figure that I absolutely needed. Yeah. And that's one of the questions that I want to ask you right now is the advice that you would give to your younger self. But, when all of these things are happening, now there's so much confusion with kids, right? For example, I was listening to, I think his name is Arena. Is an author of that book, but I'm going to post it on the video on the chat. But here's the deal. He says when he was 6 years old, he went to the beach with his aunt, with his cousin, and his sister. These three ladies and women and girls were wearing women bathing suits. And he, as a 6-year-old, said, how come I'm not wearing a bathing suit like you? He's the only one that didn't match.
Yeah.
And they simply told him, the reason why you're not wearing a bathing suit is because you're a boy. You wear those shorts and that's what boys wear. He said, okay. And he was perfectly fine with it because he was confused. Now, imagine in this crazy-ass culture that people are developing right now, some people are saying, hey, yeah, that's fine. He chose that. No, he chose that because he didn't know any better.
He's curious. He's trying to learn. He's trying to understand.
Exactly. So that's why you got to teach him what you teach him, right? So, but part of the reason why we're doing this podcast also is nowadays we've got podcasts, we've got this information, and I don't know about you, but imagine you were 13 years old. If you had access to personal development podcasts, would you listen to them?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So that's my question to you next.
Mine was, video games and comic books. Like that's where I got a lot of my personal development, and anime too, and stuff like that.
I get it. So what advice, Julian, would you give to your younger self? That could be your teenage self, preteen, young adult, or all three of them. To the younger viewer that's listening, Because to me, I dealt with a lot of peer pressure. I grew up in an area with a lot of peer pressure. And I'll kind of address some of those things. But I'd like to know you. What advice would you give to your younger self?
I would say, and this is a quote from a hadith. It says, and I could say this wrong, so know that there is good in being patient with the things that you detest, because with victory comes patience. With victory comes patience. With anguish comes relief, and with hardship comes ease. And I say that because, you know, a lot of times we label things as good or bad. And there's things that I've loved in my life that turned out to be bad for me. And there's things that I hated in my life that turned out to be good for me. And at the end of the day, this might be a little bit religious, but at the end of the day, like, you know, we have our own plans and then God plans. And God is the best of planners.
That's right.
And sometimes we just look at something for the fraction of where it's at. And when we look at it, it's like that needed to happen for us to either make amends, to learn, to grow, to develop, to get us to the next stage. And it's absolutely necessary. Like, you know, you said, like, the moments that humbled me or whatever it is, like, man, you know, at that time I thought it was the worst thing to happen to me, but looking back, like, it was the best thing that happened. It needed to happen.
That's right.
So I would tell my younger self, like, hey, whatever happens, it's perfect. Whatever happens, there's something good there for you. Be patient, you know what I mean? And just understand that through your hardship, something good's going to come out of it. Ease is going to come from it.
I love it. What about, you said, I believe you mentioned that you experienced some bullying as a kid?
Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody, a kid that is, or not even a kid, just anybody in general, but especially the younger generation, people that are being bullied? What advice would you give them?
I would say, man, that's so tough. I mean, it is tough, but it's not tough. Like, what would you say? I would say, like, hey, like, if you can avoid a fight, always avoid a fight.
Sure.
You know, if someone's treating you in a way that you don't like to be treated. Well, actually, you know, I would say, because this applies to adults too, because there's a huge thing that's going on in the Asian community.
That's right. That's true.
That I feel very empowered by. And I would say at the end of the day, we teach people how to treat us. I think that's number one. If someone's bullying you, you know, you're allowing them to bully you. That's number one. So you teach people how to treat you. So there's different ways to handle it. The first thing I would say is be confident and just say, like, hey, I don't want to be treated this way. And then if at the end of the day they keep doing that, then something needs to stop. You know, at one point, something needs to happen for that to stop.
That's right.
You tell a teacher that doesn't work, whatever it is, hey, learn some self-defense. And if you got to defend yourself, defend yourself. That's what, you know, I would teach them. Because, hey, you know, if my kid ever starts a fight, 100%, like, he's going to be reprimanded. I'm going to have a conversation with them. Because, you know, it's important to be peaceful. It's important to be kind. But I also don't think that if someone's inflicting violence on you, you should just take it either.
Absolutely.
And, you know, the whole thing with that's going on with the whole Asian community, you know, the first thing I want to say to all the listeners out here is, like, you know, we're all aware, right? Not all white people are responsible for white supremacy. Right. Not all black people are responsible for gang violence, right? You know, not all Arabs are responsible for bombings. And not all Asians are responsible for the coronavirus. That's the first thing I'm going to say. Right. Now, at the end of the day, like, I could be mad that people are doing this. But I also say, like, for the Asian community, like, man, like, how have you been showing up that people feel like this is okay? Like, for the longest time, we were trying to be the model minority, stay in our own lane, keep our mouths shut. And because of that, like, you know, people look at us like we're weak. Right. And, like, we're easy targets because they know, like, hey, if we attack the elder Asians or we attack the women, they're not going to want to burden their family. They're going to keep it to themselves. They're not going to say anything. So at the end of the day, like, you know, something needs to change. Now, am I saying we should go in the streets, we should rally, burn down businesses and do all this stuff? No, right? I say it's just the same thing as, you know, what, you know, Brother Malcolm X said, you know, after he came back from his trip from Hajj. He says, hey, like, you know, I don't believe in doing violence or inflicting violence on other people, but at the end of the day, we're going to be foolish to think that people are not going to inflict that on us, and not to be prepared to defend ourselves. Yep. So, I mean, that's what I would say.
You know what? To your point about defending yourself, I have a 6-year-old son. We've got another on the way. And I teach Maximus self-defense, right? Anybody that follows me on social media, you see that I teach my son self-defense. And I teach him about bullying. And I think it's important to teach kids early on about bullying. Just like in business, right? Yeah. I hate it when a trainer, whether it's a real estate, network marketing, whatever the case may be, tells people that it's easy. It's not going to be easy. Business is tough. Simple, yes.
Not easy.
Right? And simple doesn't mean not hard either. You're going to have tough times, right? But it isn't really that hard. You're going to get rejection, right? So just like in business, I like to tell people, you're going to have rejection. You're going to have people that lie to you. You're going to have people that let you down, and whatever the case may be. And you're managing their expectations. That way, when it happens, it doesn't catch them by surprise.
Right.
Same thing with teaching kids about bullying. So one of the things I teach my son about bullying is I'm like, look, there are people, the majority of the people in the world, kind of to what Jim Rohn talks about, the majority of the people are nice. Yeah. Right? There's only a couple of bad ones, but they move around a lot, is what I tell them, right? And so I teach them how to handle bullying. And I believe learning self-defense nowadays, even if you don't have where to go or you don't have the money, you can learn it on YouTube. You could practice on your own. You just have to have that desire. Yeah. Nowadays, you could do push-ups in your house. You could do sit-ups. You could go run. You could run in place. You could train at home. But if you could find a way to learn self-defense, not to hurt anybody else, but to be able to protect yourself. Because look, when I was a kid.
Well, not just that, but just learning to protect yourself brings a certain level of confidence.
Right.
Where people are going to sense that about you.
Yes.
And they're not even going to start anything.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a saying in Spanish. It says, El diablo sabe a quien se le aparece. And it loses something in translation, but here's what it means. The devil knows who to appear to.
Absolutely.
Right? So a bully knows and they can sense it. So what happens is, when I was a kid, I used to get bullied a little bit. Then I started learning karate, right? And I remember I moved and I started learning karate, and I started learning from a guy who's a world champion. I love the guy to this day, right? And I remember my very first tournament, I got first place, and I lost a ton of weight. So I went back to the old house to hang out with my buddies there. And one of the bullies that used to always bully me for years was there. And my best friend has a problem with his legs. He's got like a skinny leg, so he can't run. And so the bully took his bike away, but he wouldn't bully my friend because my friend was big and strong, but he had a bad leg, he couldn't run. So he just took his bike away trying to make fun of him.
Yeah.
And I remember I was scared of that kid. And I remember thinking, that's messed up. And I said, hey, give him his bike back. So we're screaming for the bike. And then I screamed something at him. I said, give him his effing bike back or something. So he hears me say that, the kid that he's always bullied, and he turns around and says, what'd you say? And he rides back and he gets off the bike. The bike is still going. Somebody jumps off the bike. The bike's still going, falls. And he comes up to me because I got brave with him.
Yeah, he didn't know, huh?
He didn't know anymore, but I was still scared.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Sometimes you don't know what you're capable of until you put yourself in there. It takes courage. Sometimes it takes a second of courage, a couple of seconds of courage for you to realize, and you just got to be willing to put yourself in those situations, right?
Absolutely.
And so I said, hey, listen, man, I'm just telling you to give Wilmer his bike back, man. What are you taking his bike for? And he got very insulted because he always bullied me and never talked to him like that.
Yeah.
So then he pushes me and he says, what'd you say? And then he kicks me. And when I felt the kick, I had already been kicked in karate a lot.
Oh, it's over.
I sized him up with that kick. I said, oh, you think you know karate? So I kicked him in the legs twice and his whole body moves. Then he tries to throw a punch, right? He like wings a punch and I see it coming. So I just throw straight right, boom, and break his nose. He started bleeding. And then I kicked him with a roundhouse kick in the face and he falls against, I was like 11 years old, falls against the fence. And he gets up and I'm like, you want some more, mother? You know, I don't want to cuss, but he gets up, looks at my friend Robert, Robert was the first guy that got me. He was my first sponsor in network marketing. He looks at my friend Robert and he says, man, he fucked me up. And he just walks away and is right. And I remember thinking in that moment, holy snap, I just beat up my bully. I didn't mean to. I was just trying to help my friend out.
Yeah.
Right. I happened to be put in that situation. But the point is, had I not learned martial arts, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And I believe beyond the shadow of a doubt, like my mindset with my kids is they're going to learn martial arts till about teenage years. If they want to go to something else, and even before teenage years, they want to do basketball, whatever the case may be, but they're going to learn martial arts because that is so incredibly important. So I experienced bullying, you experienced bullying, and sometimes you don't look for trouble, but trouble finds you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, have you ever been in a situation, Julian, when it comes to martial arts, at the wrong place at the wrong time, somebody messes with you?
I don't know about the wrong, I mean, not the wrong time, wrong place, but I remember I was bullied in high school, and there was a moment where, like, I would always walk away, I would always take it, but it was enough. Like, they took my backpack, they threw it on the roof.
Oh, man.
And then, like, they pushed me, right? And I was like, don't push me anymore. And they kept pushing me, and everybody was laughing. And, you know, because my sensei was like, you know, this is for self-defense only, only. And I was like, man, I just got to do something. And I remember I hit him. He fell on the ground. I got on top of him, and I just kept hitting him in the face, and he was, like, bleeding. And that part scared me, too, because it's like, you know, kind of like you said, you don't know what you're capable of until you do it. You know, it was that moment. I was kind of scared of myself because I just looked at him, and he was just bleeding, and I was like, I can't believe I just did that. Yeah. I mean, nobody ever messed with me again, but yeah.
Sometimes, man, you just have to... and we're not condoning violence by any means, but we are condoning self-defense because I have found myself in situations where I'll mention a quick story. My brother and I went to watch some UFC fights at a bar in Downey once, and some drunk guys got kicked out of the bar. It was 4 of them. Long story short, I won't get into the details, but they start messing with us, and I was telling, hey guys, the cops come around here all the time, man. Don't start no fight. We're not trying to fight, and we don't want to get arrested, guys. You guys go your way. And they kept messing with us. Long story short, they swing on us, and my brother and I ended up beating up 4 dudes in the back, in the back parking lot. Like in a minute, first guy takes a swing, I move, hit him with a right hand, falls, and then my brother drops some dude, and then one guy just froze. One guy just stayed there freezing because he saw we lit up these 3 other dudes, right? And he didn't do anything, right? Then the security came and whatnot, and then we ended up taking off. But that's another event where, and this was like a couple years ago. This is like, actually no, this is probably like 7 years ago. But had I not known self-defense, it would have been bad. 4 guys against 2 is not good numbers. But if you know self-defense, those are actually pretty good numbers if you know what you're doing.
Most people don't. That's a lesson to everybody else. Don't be starting fights with people, especially in the day of MMA.
No kidding.
You just don't know what people know.
That's right, man. I want to keep it cool, man.
And most people that know, they're not going to start anything with you.
Right,
That's
exactly.
the good news.
That's exactly right.
And if people do, it's because they're insecure.
Right.
And chances are, they're going to throw some wild punches. So you just got to throw it straight right down the middle, right?
That's
Just kind of.
That's right. No, man. But listen, man, I'm excited that you came on the podcast. What I'd like to ask you is, what parting advice will you have to the entrepreneur that's out there that has big dreams, wants to make it happen, and is looking for advice, is looking for a way, they're doing the personal development, or they're at least trying, that's why they're looking at podcasts like this. What advice would you give that person?
I would say, number 1, find a mentor. Number 2, invest in coaching, in good coaching. But I mean, because at the end of the day, like when you have a good coach, you have a good mentor, their hindsight's going to become your foresight. They're going to save you that time, the energy, and money because they've already figured it out.
Right.
Now, with that being said, too, just be careful because there's a lot of fugazi coaches out there as well. And the best way to kind of sort that out is to look at their testimonials and filter out their testimonials.
That's right.
Like, I'm not going to buy a workout plan without looking at, their before and after pictures of their clients,
Makes sense.
So, I mean, that's probably what I would say. But also, like, if you don't have the money to invest in coaching, it's kind of like what you said. I mean, back in the day when we got started in this industry, like it was all about CDs and tapes.
Right.
YouTube was brand new, but it was all cat videos.
Right.
Now, literally every tape that you and I used to listen to audio is available on SoundCloud or YouTube. It's there.
That's right.
And so I say access the information. The other thing I would say is don't become a personal development junkie in the sense that most people think the information is the result. And they just go read books after books, tapes after tapes, seminars after seminars. The result is what you do with that information. So
that's some very good advice, bro, because a lot of people, they get trapped in that personal development trap.
Yeah.
And it's about execution, right?
Yeah.
And it comes down to also cost versus value. Unsuccessful people look at the cost of something, cost of getting a mentor, cost of, going to the training and whatnot. Successful people look at the value they're going to get from that, and they understand I got to invest in myself.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that drives me crazy. I get people sometimes, Julian, that they say, hey, man, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this. And I say, invest in this coaching program, go to this training, buy this course, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And they don't do it because they're looking at the costs. And I'm like, you don't really want it bad enough. You've got to invest in yourself. So you've spent thousands of dollars on coaching.
Way more than that.
Right, yeah.
100%.
Me too. Lots of money when we would go to the seminars. I remember going to conventions in Ada, Oklahoma. We used to get a charter bus, bro, be on the road for about 3 days on a charter bus. We used to get a room and like 10 people to a room. People would be sleeping on the bathtub. Nose to toes, man. Yeah. And nowadays, people, they want this instant gratification success, and they're wondering, here's the thing, if you're 20, if you keep up that mindset by the time you're 30, you're still in the same damn place that you used to be. If nothing changes, nothing changes.
Yeah. I think it's actually scary because there's more available.
Right.
But I feel like people today have less drive.
Yes.
In the sense that they're more concerned with clout than actually getting results. So everything they're doing is for clout. Like even personal development, they're doing that for clout versus like doing it for results. And
that's right.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
I think it's the whole beta male thing. It's not just going to get handed to you.
Yes.
People think, want that. I put in the hours, I should get the result. No, it's not about putting in the hours. It's about what you put into the hours.
Yes. And the results, right? What life cares about is results, right? That's what is gonna bring, what you're looking for. And it's not, nowadays with social media, people want, not everybody, right? But a lot of people, what they want is, like you said, clout and followers and whatnot, but they're not putting in, like you said, the proper work to those hours. It isn't just time. There's a guy that has 20 years of experience and one guy that has 1 year of experience that smokes a dude with 20 years of experience because he's got the same 1 year of experience repeated 20 times. Yeah. And this other dude is, and that's one of the things that I liked about entrepreneurship. Doesn't care if you come from Yale or from jail.
Yeah.
If you want to go out there as an entrepreneur, for example, somebody wants to start a successful podcast, right? I just started mine. But if somebody wants to start a successful podcast, they can model this. There's a bunch of free videos on how to do it, right?
Even what equipment to get, how to set it up,
all of that. The equivalent of a genius, but are you willing to put in the work? See, nowadays people use social media, YouTube and whatnot, has the $1 million information in there, but it's a double-edged sword. It also has got the funny videos to waste your time all day. So to me, I mean, if I got idle time on a business day, that is one of the very few things that makes me depressed nowadays, bro. If I've got during the day and I've got idle time that I'm not being productive, that shit is one of the things that gets me on the borderline of depression. I do not like idle time. I like to be, now, when I'm with my family, I'm with my family. That's what I'm doing, right? I know you got a family as well, and I value that. But like during the day, right, Monday through Friday, let's say, for example, I got to be doing business. And if you're not being productive, I don't want to talk to you. I want to, let's get down to business. Who can we help? Like you say, service to many leads to greatness, right? Yep. That's a great, who's that, Jim Rohn or who's it?
Jim Rohn, yeah.
It's very true. And that's what you do. You help a lot of people, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's my motivation in life. It's kind of changed a lot. You know, the way I look at it now, the way I live my life is everything I do is not to get, it's to give.
That's awesome.
I think it's important that when God blesses us, whatever we get in abundance is in order for us to give. So we're blessed with money. Do good charitable work, That's awesome. Go out there and help people. If you're blessed with knowledge, go out there and share your knowledge. And so my motivation kind of now is again, I don't want to get too deep into it, but the way I look at it is like, man, I don't think you get into paradise, like heaven, just because you're a member of a club.
Right.
Because God is fair. I believe God is fair on both ends.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you ever seen the show The Good Place.
No.
But so that's kind of how I live my life now. Is like, imagine like every deed you do good is worth a certain amount of points. Every deed you do bad is worth a certain amount of points. Imagine when you teach somebody something and that leads to a good deed, not only do they get rewarded, but you get rewarded for that too. So for me, it's like, man, I just want to live my life racking up points. So at the end of the day of judgment, they weighed the scales of my good deeds and bad deeds. Like, man, I made it. You know what I mean? So
hey, that's a good philosophy, man.
Yeah.
If you have that philosophy, you're going to do good by others, man. So,
and whether you believe it or not, like, I mean, it's still a good philosophy.
It's still a good philosophy. We can learn from everything. And you and I definitely got a lot of things outside of the podcast to talk about because there's so many interesting. Before the podcast, we were talking about a lot of very interesting things. So we got to have lunch and we got to train one of these days, my friend. For sure. My man, I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Dude, thank you for having me.
Appreciate you, brother.
Humbled and honored.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Catch you guys on the next one. Let's get it.